Good afternoon, folks, and welcome back after a month, let's say, Peter, to the
We could
Sticks and
call it a
the.
month. Yeah.
Yeah, thereabouts, eh? We're back with the Sticks and the Six podcast here for episode 244. As always, myself, Andrew Forbes, with my co-host Peter Barricini. And Peter, it's been the dog days. The dog days definitely set in the last little while there, and it got quiet for a little bit. Obviously, there's still some rumblings around guys like Quinn Hughes, whether he's going to sign in Minnesota, sign an extension, or his contract run out, and maybe go a similar direction as his two brothers. Of course, that's the hot topic right now. Elliot Friedman's contract seems to be a hot topic in the hockey world
Yeah.
right now as well with Sportsnet. I'm not sure who who they're going to be re-upping for their coverage as well. But outside of all that, we haven't seen each other in about a month. We haven't hosted a podcast in about a month, so there is some stuff to talk about. But before we get into all that fun stuff, how you doing, my friend?
Definitely quite a bit to get into, but yeah, it's definitely been a hot minute. I know we usually do a weekly thing, but personal matter came in and really forced me to not be involved, not just in the podcasting, but writing as well. But everything is cleared up right now. Everything's going well. Everything's looking smooth right now. So that's a good thing in terms of being a little bit behind that, looking forward, being positive about everything that happened. But as you mentioned, yeah, it's been a lot. I mean, yeah, very few rumblings, but there's still notable rumblings right now. And even so, with contracts on the ice and off the ice in the broadcast booth, you name it, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. And I know a big rumor that just came out too. How about Erik Karlsson possibly as a Leaf right now? Not possibly, but circulating right now in terms of him being Swedish, Nylander, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Sundin. You know, there's a lot of Swedish connections on the team right now, especially with Sundin being underneath John Chaika right now, or like managing everything alongside him. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how that's going to play out. But you already signed Darren Radish. Do you need another offensive-minded defenseman? Who knows? But you can't have too many of those, right? So we'll see what happens, but definitely something to look forward to. And yeah, it kind of like trade deadline, a lot of speculation right now because it's so quiet. Everyone's tight-lipped, and you don't know what to expect.
That's when everybody starts feeding in, right? All the pundits start giving their 2 cents.
Little thoughts, little tidbits here and there.
Yes, I will say this past weekend I took the kids to meet Easton Cowan with the Calder Cup, so we got a chance to
Oh,
got a
nice.
picture with the kids and Easton, and man, I gotta give the kid credit. Like, he was sitting there. It was supposed to be a 2 hour event. He was sitting there for probably three and a half, maybe even 4 hours, just
Oof.
signing autographs and creating conversation with the kids. Had like a game used stick that you could win off to the side as a draw, like this, really giving back to like the community. A lot of young kids showed up. It was really good to see, and like I said, got my two out there for a photo with
Nice.
Easton. And fortunately, I did ask, he gets another day with the cup, so he's not spending his entire time
There
signing
you go.
autographs and everything. But it was pretty cool to see the Calder Cup, and he had his rings there as well. So
Mhm.
congratulations to Easton and all the Marlies for their
Yes.
big championship win. But yeah, of course, the rumors have been swirling around Erik Karlsson. It's there's more weight to it, of course, because it's coming from Elliot Friedman, who has an unnamed source that kind of came forward and said he expects, or they expect, that in 2026-27 Erik Karlsson will become a Toronto Maple Leaf. And it's something that you and I have talked about, not necessarily Karlsson, but the logjam that is the Toronto Maple Leafs blue line. Ben Danford, obviously a guy that we want to see kind of make that push and get to that next level. I'm not sure this is the year, but there's obviously potential there as well. But there's certainly a logjam. So for him to come in, one would have to go out. And most recently, we saw the first kind of press availability for Morgan Rielly, a guy who was
Yeah.
rumored all summer long that he was going to go to another team. I mean, I think we even talked about San Jose. Then they went out and got Darnell Nurse and spent the money for Darnell. And so, I mean, there was a lot of speculation around Morgan Rielly and whether he wanted to be there anymore, whether the Leafs wanted him there anymore. Obviously, he noted loyalty is big for him. So there's kind of that understanding that he wanted to play for Toronto, and he signed a contract in Toronto.
Yeah.
He's not one of the guys who's going to request, a trade out of the city. But his press availability came at an event that obviously he was taking part in, and it was very, very modest, to say the least.
Yeah.
He was happy that,
Just like a Rielly typical presser.
yes, he was soft spoken, um, content that it had gone the way that it had gone. He's excited for what's to come. He knows Jim Hiller, has experience with Jim Hiller. So there's that familiarity with some of the coaching staff. And then obviously, the loyalty aspect, and he's talked about that previously as well. And he gets to don the Maple Leaf once again next season, at least for the time being. He kind of controls his fate. We've talked about his no move clause before. Your take on the Leafs not making a move, especially with all the buzz that was around him, but also the response from Morgan Rielly in this past couple weeks.
Yeah, it actually felt like free agency or like leading up to or just after felt like something was going to happen, but then that Darnell Nurse moved happened, and kind of felt like that may have taken him out of the playing field in terms of like a defenseman being on the move, right? And I'm gonna say this right now, I've gotten a lot of criticisms for saying, guys, I said if Darnell Nurse is able to move unretained, then Morgan Rielly should be in the same spot. And I got a couple of comments from Oilers fans saying that, LOL, Darnell Nurse is better than Rielly. Meanwhile, these are probably the same fans that wanted Darnell Nurse out for months and months on end and couldn't handle his defensive deficiencies, just like Morgan Rielly has his. But I just like the hypocrisy in all of that, where you say that he's bad and Darnell Nurse was worth the trade. Meanwhile, Morgan Rielly wasn't. Whatever. I digress. I digress a little bit right there, but I made my point. In terms of like actual move happening, it kind of cooled off right after that. Like everything, like nothing, crickets. And it kind of felt like, is he still in the market? Is he still in play? Is he going to be on the move to one of those teams that was rumored that he sent in, West Coast possibly? Nothing happened. And then all of a sudden now we get a little bit more light with this presser. And you got to give Rielly credit for all of this and being, as you mentioned, modest, soft-spoken, but looking towards the future and putting this behind him. Because with all the defensive deficiencies, with all that we've seen last year, all the mistakes, it does pile on for a player. And like, it's right for us to criticize that because there were quite a few mistakes. And again, the Maple Leafs defense as a whole were bad. But Rielly took a lot of that burden and brunt of that for a lot of the other players themselves. Or themselves, and the fact that he still wants to be here regardless of the rumors, regardless of what was said. And there were a couple of quotes that really stood out. Obviously he said being grateful to be a part of this organization. There's a lot of great things ahead and I'm looking forward to being a part of that. He was very candid about how him and Cheika spoke after he came back from the World Hockey Championships. And I think that communication level right there, the fact that he said that they had good conversations, he was direct and upfront, and the fact that they still want him, I love that he didn't give a guarantee on what could happen, but they were always open about any possibility. But now that has closed and there's still something here for Rielly, I think this could be something that could boost him. I think it can motivate him. And we all know that for years he's probably thrusted into a role of a number one pairing defenseman. Well, meanwhile, he may not be that number one pairing D-man at this point. He could be a 3. He could be a 4. So we'll see how that's going to play out and how the defensive pairings are going to change. If you don't want to put Rielly or give him all that pressure like he has in the past, maybe you bump him down with him as a left shot defender. Maybe you can pair him up with some of the more defensively responsible into Chris Tanev. Hate to break up that McCabe Tanev pairing, but what if you put McCabe with Radish and give him a little bit more leeway offensively on the rush, because he's a little bit better defensively? It's really interesting to see how it's going to play out for not just the team, but for Rielly. And you brought up Jim Hiller too. Again, a lot of familiarity right there, just like there was with Matthews and Nylander. Rielly was there when this all started and kicked off too. And I think those were some of his best years as a Maple Leaf defender and as a bit of a better point producer as well. So we'll see how well the Jim Hiller effect has, as well as the new coaching staff, new defensive structure, giving him a little bit more free roam to do whatever he needs to do, maybe not being as over aggressive, try to work on those tendencies a little bit. But I love the fact that Rielly is still himself. He has no ill will to the team. He's looking forward right now. This is all behind him. It feels like he is going to be part of the roster, barring some unforeseen circumstances. But right now, I just love how well he composed himself and how well he handled all this, because it can't be easy for him.
Well, yeah, and I think too, like there's multiple ways to look at it, right? Like, you know, in one aspect, you know, could all that chatter kind of detriment his game? Absolutely, but from another perspective, like, this puts a chip on his shoulder, right? Like this is a guy that, you know, obviously is very proud, wants to play hard for the team, wants to do well, and you know he had a rough year last year. Like,
yeah,
there was a lot going on. We talked about some of the outside factors that could have played into it as well, right? Like, you know, being a new father, it changes things as well.
Yep.
You know, some sleepless nights, I'm sure, and then, you know, you carry that in. The team's not doing well. Mitch Marner left. There was a lot of changes that happened within the organization.
Top to bottom.
And that
bottom,
all
everything
affects it. That all affects your play on the ice, right? So I think too, like, we have to take all that into context as well. But in saying that, the hope is that, you know, he puts that chip on his shoulder and he can come back and have a bounce back year. This is a guy who put up 70 points. I'm not looking for 70 points from Morgan Rielly. I'm looking for a consistent effort night in and night out, consistent production from game to game. And really, I think we talked about this weeks and weeks and weeks ago, was that, you know, there's the Jake Gardiner effect, right? Where Jake Gardiner was a Maple Leaf and everyone expected him to be like your number one, number two. They played him on the top pairing against tough opposition, and his mistakes were magnified. And in a similar aspect, Morgan Rielly's kind of approaching that position,
territory,
right?
Yeah.
He's, you know, there's this expectation that he's going to be your number one defenseman, and I mean, simply put, he's not your number one defenseman, and that's okay. That's okay. Like, what people have to realize is it's okay for him to not be the number one guy, and still be able to produce and still be able to play in his own end and still be able to give you all the intangibles that you need. But playing him on that first pairing might magnify the mistakes that he makes, which then, you know, gravitates more pressure towards him from Leafs Nation and outside pundits. And then he puts the pressure on himself. All of a sudden, you know, we're in a whole new territory with the expectation that's coming from a guy that probably should be looking at like a 3-4 spot on your team.
And you brought up everything too about, or we both talked about the defensive deficiencies too, but it's just the pace of the game too. Like, I think the biggest thing that I saw last year was that one game or the game against the Islanders, where Matthews tied and broke the record for the most goals by the Maple Leafs. But then you compare Morgan Rielly to a younger Matthew Schaefer and how he basically destroyed him with the speed game, cutting to the outside, cutting in on both the tying, and I'm not sure if that was a tying goal, but I know he got the game winner as well. But he had that aspect that he was 2 steps ahead of him. Rielly has his speed has come into question recently, and the fact that he's still 1 or 2 steps behind makes me still consider or wonder, how are you going to keep up with the pace? Because he ain't getting any younger. The game is getting faster with all the younger players coming up. So I'm just curious to see how he's going to approach the season. I think that's going to be the main thing. And you talked about, like, you know, I'm curious. I want to pose this question to you. As of right now, if you could juggle the Maple Leafs defense right now, like let's say you still have, I mean, you're still going to have Rielly on there. You throw his name off to the side, and you have a mixed bag of names: Radish, McCabe, Tanev, OEL, what have you. Who is a perfect fit, or at least a good fit right now, to play with Rielly so you can mask those defensive deficiencies? But also, how would you go approach with the whole changeup of a different new look defense pairing?
That's a great question. To be honest, I think you want your strongest tandem on the top, right? If Tanev's back, then I think Tanev OEL might be your 1-2.
I love that.
I personally
I love that.
wouldn't mind seeing McCabe and Rielly together on the second pairing, and that pushes Radish down to the third pairing, which isn't
Probably
necessarily
can't do that. Probably can't do that.
You
With the
can't
money
do
he's
that.
making. Yeah.
You can't do that, but it's not necessarily a bad thing either, right?
Yeah.
If you have a strong look at some of the teams that have gone on to win the cup, we always talk about having to have that number one horse
Yeah.
on the back end, but if you can solidify 6 strong defensemen across 3 pairings, all of a sudden you're a tough team to play against up and down your lineup, right? So I mean, you're probably going to see like a Rielly, Rielly Tanev second line, maybe a Radish OEL first line.
I was just thinking that. How
That
good would
leaves
that be?
that pushes McCabe to your third pairing, which to me is insane as well
Yeah.
because top shot blocker last season, right? Like, I don't think there's a right answer. I think
Yeah.
they've got to see what's going to work. They've got to play around with it and see where the chemistry lies. But I do think that they need to really, and this is a coach's decision at the end of the day, right? Like,
Yeah.
they need to sit back and say, let's take a little bit of weight off of Rielly's shoulders. Let's put him on the second pairing. How crazy would it be? And like, the Leafs would be crucified for doing this because of what he makes. But how crazy would it be to have Morgan Rielly as a third pairing defenseman?
Oh, yeah. That's the thing. Like, we talk about like how you don't want to give fourth or third. Well, salary cap's going up right now, but like a year or two ago, when you gave a third or fourth liner $3 million, that in itself is basically a reason to get canned.
Yeah.
Because of bad allocation of money, you could find value elsewhere at a cheaper price and get someone with a better results at a cheaper cap hit, right? You don't want a $7 million man on the third pairing. But then again, like Radish, you don't want a $8 million man on the third pairing, which is why I think OEL and Darren Radish is that perfect combination of defense and offense. And I think when you look at even like this past with the Carolina Hurricanes, the combination, I think it was I'm gonna have to go back and look at the defensive pairings, but I think Slavin and Keandre Miller, I think they were the top pairing, if I'm not mistaken. Gonna double check on that, but they were absolutely lights out, and both like in the offensive zone and within their own zone, whether they got results or whether they got points, whatever, everything was there.
So
no, it's Slavin and Chatfield, but I'm still going to make the point and put Keandre Miller in that aspect because he's a strong two-way presence. So you have that with OEL and Radish. Now, are you going to put Rielly as that second pairing with the Tanev or McCabe and then McCabe down? But then again, now you also have to bring in Emil Andre into the equation because the Maple Leafs gave up Joseph Wall for him. I think that's an underrated move and some that could have some upside because, yeah, he's on the smaller side, but he's stocky and he's built. And what's going to happen with this new Erik Karlsson rumor, right? Someone's going to have to leave, and you're going to have a lot of left shot defensemen and not a whole lot of right, and someone's going to have to play on that right side, which I think McCabe is dual, like he can play
McCabe and
positions.
OEL. I think
you have that versatility there, at least.
Emil Andre has that versatility as well. He plays both sides.
And then, as you mentioned too, I think earlier in the show, Ben Danford, like what's going to happen with him if he has a strong camp? Because he looked pretty good in the preseason last year. What if he gets a 9-game tryout right now? Who knows? You're going to have a log jam on defense, but this is now kind of a good problem to have because you have veteran players, you have players that can bounce back, and you have a younger prospect coming up into the system that kind of fits the mold of how you want to play.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so hear me out. Hear me out. I'm on Puckpedia right now, kind of going over the numbers.
Yeah,
going full beautiful mind here. This is where my crazy mind's going. So I mentioned
I like crazy.
I mentioned Tanev and Ekman Larson as your top pairing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's refurbish that. What if we go Darren Radish, right hand defenseman, with Ekman Larson to kind of lead the charge? Okay, so that's your top pairing. Okay. You drop Tanev down to the second pairing. You've got Tanev and Morgan Rielly as your second pairing. You put Jake McCabe, and this is where it's going to get interesting, because you're either going to go Emile Andre because you gave up Joseph Wall.
Yeah.
Or Ben Danford makes the team out of camp, and Ben Danford, Jake McCabe as your third pairing.
Ooh.
And worst case scenario, you still have the water bug and the workhorse of Troy Stetcher as your third guy.
Yeah,
to fill in that void.
Into the lineup. Here's the thing. I forgot about Troy Stetcher. It's funny you brought that up right now, because on DFO for the line combinations right now, and it's projected, all projection based, nothing finalized. Jake McCabe with Darren Radish.
Interesting. I don't mind that. I don't mind that
either, because whether it's OEL or McCabe, one's a little bit more offensive minded, the other's a little bit more defensive minded. But I love that two-way presence right there. Rielly and Tanev, I think that could be the expectation, whether if there's going to be movement, Rielly's going to be on that second pairing, and you have Tanev to anchor him down. OEL and Emile Andre as a third pairing. But yeah, I think that, having McCabe as that versatile guy that you can move into the first spot or to the third pairing spot, I think that gives him more flexibility and minutes too, because this is a guy that eats rubber. He earns minutes in not necessarily power play, but 5-on-5, penalty kill, game-saving situations. This is a guy that has a lot of not potential, but a lot of upside that can impact the game positively right now.
So one thing that Gary brings up, and it's an interesting point as well. Mm-hmm. He says OEL's age playing top minutes are a bit concerning.
It is. Yeah, I agree.
The only thing, I'm going to play devil's advocate here, because I agree he's getting up there. But the only thing I'm going to say is OEL had maybe one of his best seasons in the last 5 years last season.
He was the best Leafs defenseman that last
Went
year.
on to play for Sweden in 2 international tournaments. He played a lot of hockey. Yeah. So that could do one of two things. Either one, revitalize an older guy. And I was reading an article, actually I forget where it was. I'll have to look that up, but I was reading an article yesterday about how bringing in a guy like Gavin McKenna can kind of mask those players that are aging a little bit. They get that youth excitement injected into the lineup, and all of a sudden you got an OEL who's playing like he's 28 again for the Arizona Coyotes, having maybe another incredible offensive season. So it'll be interesting to see what direction it goes. Let's not be naive. There's going to be injuries that happen. We're going to see Emile Andre. We're going to see Troy Stetcher. We could even see Ben Danford at some point this season. Mm-hmm. And whether he gets that 9-game tryout at the beginning of the year or not, Ben Danford's coming off a Calder Cup.
Yeah,
he's got that little bit of winning pedigree in him now. Within an organization that knew that he was their guy at the draft and went after him. And so that also pumps a little bit of confidence into a young defenseman, a guy who's not afraid to engage, a guy who's not afraid to go out there and lay the booming hit. So the Leafs have options, and I think that's the most important thing here.
And I really do love that transition after the OHL season was finished. He played 16 games on that playoff run. That's a good chunk of that playoffs. And he, again, some issues here and there. You're going to have that. But for the most part, he bounced back and he stood out in a big way. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Spike jumps in. Spike, welcome to the show.
How's it going,
The
Spike?
Olympics, the Olympics was a big motivation for a guy like OEL. He's a
Yep.
candidate for regression, in my opinion. That's fair. That's
Yep.
fair to
That is
say.
fair. Yep.
I would also argue that the Olympics are happening again in four more years. I just listened to an interview with Drew Doughty, who says that he doesn't want the Olympics to be his last one. He thinks he can play at 39, 40.
Uh, Maybe as a
OEL.
seventh or eighth defender, I don't see him as anything higher than some of the other defenders coming up. But
No, but would you take that out of OEL's potential as well? Because right
roughly the
now,
same age.
can you name me seven defensemen from Sweden that would be a better option than OEL?
In this case, probably not. I still think OEL has a better chance to make Sweden in another 4 years than I think Drew Doughty would have for Team Canada. I personally think Drew Doughty should not have been on Team Canada this year to begin with. I still think it should have been Matthew Schaefer. I think the kid should have gotten that opportunity. I don't care if he's 18. He was playing like he was a veteran in the league. So to me, you gotta figure that out or put that into the equation as well.
So I mean, Spike, you're not wrong. I think he's certainly a candidate for regression, but I think what motivates these players, and that's why I brought up the injection of youth into the lineup.
Yeah.
There's this naivety to like some of this 18 and 19-year-olds that come into the NHL and they just want to go out there and they just want to play, right? And to get that kind of especially that type of player like Gavin McKenna to come into your lineup in your dressing room and have that that loyal, I want to win, I want to do, I want to. He's
Want to
Gavin
play the
McKenna.
villain?
He wants to play the villain, but also
Yep.
Gavin McKenna already has a chip on his shoulder from the start of his NCAA season. So he wants to prove people wrong. People are questioning his abilities already as an NHL player. He hasn't played a single preseason game. So in saying that, I think that injection of youth in the lineup is going to be interesting to watch, and I think that could either boost OEL or the speed and the pace of play that the Leafs are going to need to play with to keep up with other teams could ultimately affect him as well, good or bad. So, you're not wrong, Spike. I do agree he's a candidate, but I'm interested to see where it goes. And maybe you're right. Maybe top line minutes aren't for him. So maybe that's where you see, the McCabe, the Radish at number one. You see, maybe Tanev, OEL at number two, and then again we're pushing a $7.5 million guy to the third pairing. Either way, you're having a guy that's making $4 to $5 million probably on your third pairing.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how it goes and where Jim Hiller looks at it and sees maybe something different from us. I'm not 100% positive, but it's definitely going to be interesting to watch as the off season progresses and of course heading into the shortened preseason as well this year. We have it in our notes here. I'll ask you kind of straight up. It doesn't have to be a long conversation, but maybe the most notable move by the Maple Leafs this offseason, or if you want to go widespread, you could talk about the most notable move of the offseason altogether for the NHL. But I'm sure one of us is going to say Brady Tkachuk to the Florida Panthers is a major move. I'm still convinced Florida doesn't make the playoffs, especially listening to their podcast recently. It's just like, there's a lot of talk around what happened in Ottawa.
I was about to say if that's going to be if Brady Tkachuk was becoming a distraction about post Olympics, the podcast, everything, if that was becoming an issue in Ottawa, Matthew probably was masking it a little bit better, but Brady probably just doesn't know when to stop talking sometimes. Yeah. And I think right now going to Florida with all that off-season issues or talk coming to Florida does have a culture in terms of the winning pedigree. But is that going to last with all the talk coming over there now? That's what I'm interested to see. That's what I want to know. I was about to say, in terms of like big off-season move right now, I'm gonna have to go back and look at all I gotta find another list of all the moves because I lost track of it and I closed my tab. Let's go. I'm on the TSN signing tracker right now. So let's see. Trying to go back and see
Gary's move of the offseason. Alfie to the Leafs.
that is huge. That is huge. I honestly, because that was not expected. I did not see that happening whatsoever. I do want to say the whole Leo Carlson offer sheet signing was probably the biggest move.
Mm-hmm.
And it paved the way for a lot of the other guys. It paved the way for Celebrini. It paved the way for Connor Bedard to earn that big payday.
It ultimately changed the outlook on the cap for the next many years.
The cap, but also it changed everything drastically for the Anaheim Ducks.
How's Cutter Gauthier?
I was about to say he's still looking for or going to be looking for a deal. The fact that Pat Verbeek was in like contention for GM of the year, and there's the whole talk about Leo Carlson offer sheet. We will match any offer. Danny Briere said, "Hold my beer. Going to drop you $18 million right now." Obviously, if you're a player, you're going to sign that right then and there. There's no second thoughts about that. Unless a player flat out says that you are not signing it, you're not signing it. Kind of like the whole Matthew Nice thing where everyone says they're like $10 million offer sheet. I'm not signing it. He stayed here. But the fact that you went out, opened your mouth, someone used that to their advantage, and now you were cut into a corner. Now you're going to be like, well, that's not the figure that I had. I probably like 12 to 15. That's 3 more than I anticipated. You put yourself in a bad spot because now, the cap's going up, but now you're allocating a bigger chunk of that money to your future and possible captain of that team. But now there are a lot more holes on the fence right now. You have a little bit more of an issue because Cutter Gauthier is like, well, this guy got 18 million. I'm going to ask for the beg myself, right?
Yeah.
Put up a bunch of goals this year. You wouldn't have gotten to the spot without me or Leo basically at that point. So to me, the whole Leo Carlson offer sheet and signing of younger players was the biggest move of all for good and for bad, but mainly bad for the Ducks.
Yeah, it's also going to destroy the Ducks, and this is where
I saw Spike too. Dorfeev to the Rangers, that was another one too.
That was a big one, 40-goal scorer. It's going to destroy the Ducks, right? Like this is where they talk about team-friendly deals. You got like the Sidney Crosby who took 8.7 his entire career and could have easily made, $100 million more. And now you've got, and we kind of knew that Cutter Gauthier had this like belief in himself, let's call it, maybe an air of arrogance, let's call it, from when he wanted to leave the Flyers and ended up on the Ducks, and now here they are. And what an FU from the Flyers to go and say 18 million for Leo Carlson, and you have to imagine that it had something to do with Cutter Gauthier, right?
Absolutely. They were trying to take the guy away from him that got him that season, basically.
But can we not agree? How crazy would it be if Cutter Gauthier went and signed like 15 million with the Flyers?
Oh yeah, that's just going to be a roundabout kind of situation where it's just going to be like Flyers fans are going to probably still have a sour taste in their mouth. Well, why didn't you just stay here and sign that money, right?
Can we agree though? Like 18 million for Leo Carlson was absolutely asinine.
Oh no, absolutely. I don't think he should have. I honestly think 12.5, 13. That was my range in terms of a new contract for him. Yeah, because he was looking great. But 18, I think that was wow. Yeah. But then again, it forces the hand, right?
Yeah, no, it's insane that it went that route. But I mean, it'll be interesting to see what they do with Cutter Gauthier, because to move him, they already moved Mason McTavish, right? Yeah. They already moved on from Mason McTavish. They moved on from Trouba. They moved on they've already moved on.
Gudas was a big factor, anyways.
Yeah, but they moved on from some legitimate pieces that made them a contending team last year.
Yeah,
right.
And Olin Zellweger, he's gone.
Yeah. And I think I was saying this to somebody the other day. I think Mason McTavish is going to have a career year with the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah.
right? You got
Can
Robbie
see it.
Thomas, you got Connor McMichael there now. You've got Buchnevich.
Junior
Like
connection.
you've got some incredible players that I think Mason McTavish is going to go on to have an incredible year, and I hope so too because I PC him as a hockey card collector. So we'll see if that value goes up. But
And
yeah, I think.
also, it's also kind of a good thing that the Ducks did match that because Leo Carlson was a second overall pick. You
Mhm,
get first, you get those first like or four first rounders. There's no guarantee you're going to be in the lottery. You
mhm.
could be in that. You could be bad, but you could still be within that 8 to 10 to 12 range where you could find a good player, but you're not going to have that impact player like Leo Carlson.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. And don't get me wrong, like we've talked before about how William Nylander was a 70-point guy for the first few seasons he was in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Carlson's a 65 or 68-point guy, and he's making now 18 million a year, which is like insane to me.
Yeah.
But I don't doubt that he can be a legitimate 40-goal scorer,
Mm-hmm.
legitimate 100-point guy at some point down the road. I just think this idea and the way that the NHL has gone in terms of paying players for what is possible rather than what they've done has changed the complexion of the league, and it's changed the complexion of the salary cap
Yeah.
to a point where I think at some point you're gonna have to look at a soft cap because I don't know how this continues to go the route that it does, and you
Then you'll be
maintain
back at
star
square
players.
one.
Yeah, you maintain star players in cities that they were drafted, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be some kind of leniency in terms of like if you sign a contract with the team that drafted you, maybe they get like a cut off of the cap or something. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, but they have to go that kind of route at some point. Before our next point here, just a quick word from our sponsors over at DraftKings Sportsbook. It has come down to this, and no, we're not talking about the Stanley Cup Finals. We're talking about the final month of the NHL offseason before we get into our first 84-game regular season starting in September. The DraftKings Sports app is now available in all 50 states and includes all markets. Sweat every shift of the series or the season all in one place with one app. New DraftKings customers sign up with code THPN, spend $5 to get 200 in rewards within 21 days. That's code THPN in partnership with DraftKings. The crown is yours. Bet with DK Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, 1-800-MY-RESET. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777. Visit ccpg.org on behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas. Bet tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 plus, void in Ontario. Event contract trading with DraftKings predictions involves risk of loss. Sportsbook bonus bets expire in 7 days. $50 in prediction dollars issued weekly for 3 weeks, expire in 1 year. Redeem one non-withdrawable reward. Availability varies. Predictions offer void in New York. Ends June 28th, so it's already passed. Terms at dkng.co/audio. And of course, DraftKings is through the wonderful people over at the Hockey Podcast Network as well. So make sure you use code THPN when signing up for DraftKings. Yeah, so we got to get into the prospects, right? Because we've talked about how, I mean, at the end of last season, we're talking about how the Leafs have nothing. Their cupboards are full. We've got Tynas Luke Kobler, who might be the lone bright spot outside of Ben Danford. Then Archer Aktiamov had an incredible playoff run with the Marlies, goes on to win the Calder Cup. Now we're talking about Gavin McKenna. We're talking about all the other pieces that they racked up in this last draft. And suddenly the future for the Toronto Maple Leafs isn't as bleak as it was maybe at the end of the 25-26 season. So with that in mind, we're not going to go through a top 10, but I want to I know you've written a piece of some Marlies to watch. I'm looking at doing a piece for the Hockey Writers on 3 prospects to watch this coming season. If you could give me a list of 3 prospects that you want the Leafs or you want Leafs fans to watch closely for next season, where would we be looking?
It's going to start right off the bat. I'm not going to include Gavin McKenna because we all know what's going to be expected of McKenna. I am going to say Artur Aktyamov because of that playoff run that he had. He is now the go-to guy. You have no Joseph Wall in the NHL to battle for a spot. You have no Dennis Hildeby to leap over as well. You are the guy in that playoff run. Solidified that. It forced John Chaika's hand is to move on from Wall and essentially move on from Hildeby because he's the MVP. He's going to get a bunch or a major share of the starts, and I think that he's ready for it. Based on the numbers, he's had decent numbers in the AHL. Now, if you could have a season where you're the actual starter, improve on that, and also serve as kind of like a protege or be under a mentorship program with Sergei Bobrovsky, they kind of have that similar play style and build. Hopefully, you can get a little bit of advice from him. So, Aktyamov, or as I like to call King Arthur, I am going to make sure that he is always going to be at the top of my list to watch. Tina Koblar, that world championship solidified himself as a top 5 prospect, made me and not on other teams before the Maple Leafs. The way that he handled himself in that very first game against Slovakia, where it probably wasn't the prettiest goal, but the smart of just getting it on net, throw the puck on net, do whatever he can. He was making his mark against NHLers, and he was the reason why they had their best finish at the tournament. He was leading the team. He was a factor in the board battles in front of the net. He was making his presence felt. And for me, the size, the experience in the SHL, the experience at a major tournament like this is going to help him for his development. I know he's going to be in the SHL again, but when that season ends, if there's a possibility that he could come over sooner than later, hell yeah, I'm on board with that because I think this guy is going to be ready for the AHL when he comes over based on what he's able to accomplish and how well he's able to play at a pro level. Third, it's going to be a toss-up. I'm going to say Alex Bilecki from the Kitchener Rangers because I thought he was very severely underrated in his draft year. They were the Kitchener Rangers were stacked. They won the OHL Cup. They won the Memorial Cup. But as a third pairing defender, every time that I watch them, I'm like, is this guy on the first pairing? No. When you look at the sheet, the breakdown, third pairing guy most of the night. And he was the one always driving the play, getting involved, making big time plays, even within his own zone. I know there's a little bit of like issues right there with over aggressiveness at times for me. Needs to work on that. But overall, steady two-way presence. This is a guy that can handle the physical play. He can jump up into the rush. And I feel like this year there's going to be big minutes for him, especially with the bit of a turnaround that the Kitchener Rangers are going to have. I feel like he could easily be a top pairing guy for them this year. So I'm really looking to see how that's going to play out. And underrated is going to be Harry Nancy. Got off to a hot start last year. In the first, I would say maybe 10, 15 games in the OHL season. He cooled off, but so did the Owen Sound attack. But the skill level, the playmaking, the pace, the energy that he brings, again, it may just be an AHL career for him, but I do like the upside that he can be more than that as sort of like a bottom 6 energy type player because he has that intensity, that work ethic. He has the skill to go along with it. He's got a good frame and he's very smart. And I think too, if I'm not mistaken, and I have to double check on this, so I'll circle back on that. But before she was let go, I thought Haley Wickenheiser had said good things about Harry Nancy coming in the development camp. So I'm full-heartedly on board to see what he's going to do this year because even if it's going to be his final OHL season, if he gets shipped off to another team in a deep playoff run, I think he can make a big impact.
Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, for me, I got to start with you on Artur Aktyamov. Like, this is the guy, right? Like, we've talked about him before. He's even come out and said, like, he said that Bobrovsky is one of his favorite goalies. We saw the interaction with them at one of the games last season. If somebody goes down, this guy, and now there's a lot of expectation on him too. So it's going to be interesting to see where that pressure lies on him coming into this year, having won the Calder Cup, knowing what he's capable of, playing with that team in front of him. What can he do as the main guy, right? And of course, we've talked about Leafs developing goaltending prospects for a long time. I think this gives you an option, where now we can sit back and say, the Leafs have legitimate opportunity within their organization
Mm-hmm.
from a goaltending standpoint. So I think that's going to be a big one. And as you said, a mentorship with Sergei Bobrovsky, like what a perfect move for them to
Yeah.
to bring him in for another young Russian goaltender. So that's going to be interesting to watch. Um, Another guy I want to keep an eye on is Landon Sim. Um,
Yes.
and
Yes.
and, and I bring him up, obviously, having played for the London Knights. I think that was a guy that created a lot of energy within the lineup. He's a force, not afraid of anything. Goes out and plays physically. He's going to be a fan favorite, and if he gets some time with the Leafs at some point this season, I think it's going to be interesting to see like if he can solidify a spot because he's going to be a protector in that lineup.
Mm-hmm.
And with Max Domi likely out for an extended period of time, you're going to need a protector. Landon Sim might be the guy that they look to. And
Perfect description of a shift disturber right there.
exactly. And
Really perfect description.
he's a guy that's not afraid to kind of dig into the offense a little
Mm-hmm.
bit, be a net front presence as well. And just, take like if you look at a picture of this guy, if you're watching right now or you're listening later, look up a picture of Landon Sim. He's got the face of a hockey player.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like this guy is built to play. He's a rugged player, and he can do a lot of damage for the Maple Leafs if he were to make it onto the NHL roster. Another maybe undervalued pick that we had this past season, or this past off season, I should say, that I want to keep an eye on is Zach Olson. He was the
Yes.
third round pick,
Mm-hmm.
73rd overall for the Leafs in 2026. Off to Colorado College of the NCAA this year. But a guy who put up 34 points, 18 goals in 57 games for the Saskatoon Blades in the WHL last year, and added 6 points in 10 playoff games as well for his team. So another guy who, relative to other players, might be considered undersized. He's 6'1", 200 pounds, but he plays a blue collar game. And that's that WHL blue collar type of mentality. And I'm curious to see how that carries over to the NCAA and Colorado College. And if he has the same transitional issues that we saw this previous year with some of the other players that made that jump to the NCAA. So I think he's a guy that the team needs to watch as well. And I think if you're a fan of the team, you got to keep an eye on Zach Olson as well.
I am so glad you brought up Olsen because I was a big fan of his. And credit to also Dayton Reimer, our fellow colleague at the Hockey Writers. We talk about prospects on PC a lot of the time as well. And he's seen quite a bit of the Saskatoon Blaze, and he's always talked highly of Zach Olson.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was Stephen Ellis who said that he, like during the combine, Olsen is probably one of those players that you hate to play against, but you want on your team because of how intense he could play. And I am so glad that the Maple Leafs got him, and I had him as a potential target because of that. And lo and behold, they got him as a third-round pick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely a big pickup for the Leafs this season as well. Question here from Gary. Gary also mentions Halinka, who's another guy to keep an eye on. Danford and
Yep.
Tingus Bingus. Tingus Pingus.
I think you mean Tinas.
Yeah, that's definitely what he meant.
Yeah.
Anyways, this question: what happened to William Bell? I thought he had the potential to be in the conversation at this point. I believe William Bell's playing at Notre Dame this coming season. I could be wrong.
The thing is with William Bell, he's that prototypical power forward, but you're not going to get a whole lot of offense. Like he's got strength, he's got the power, he's got the ability to like be a wrecking ball kind of player. I think in his draft year he mentioned Tom Wilson as a guy that he idolized or tries to play his model his game around. But you're probably not going to see a whole lot. Yeah, he plays at Notre Dame. He had 4 points in 34 games last season, so you're not expecting a whole lot of upside, but if you're looking as a fourth liner kind of guy that can basically muck it up along with Landon Sim, that's the perfect role for him. But other than that, he may just be a regular call up at this point.
Yeah, you'll have to keep an eye on him. Maybe he's a late bloomer, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But like again, the transition to the NCAA maybe affected him. When he was playing at Shattuck, like he was an offensive dynamo. But yeah, as of late, like the offense has certainly dropped off. He's a power forward. He plays hard, big body. But keep an eye on him at Notre Dame, and he still remains unsigned. So he could fall into that college or collegiate free agent at some point, and maybe go that way as well. Tunis, it's a Christoph Porzingis reference. Ah, okay, I gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah, I gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So, anyways, lots of prospects, like we said, to watch for as they've rebuilt that kind of that cupboard that their prospect cupboard. Lastly,
I do want to add one quick thing. Haley Wickenheiser did say that Harry Nancy was the most improved prospect heading into development camp. So,
and we saw some of that last season too.
We
saw
did.
some of that last season. Lastly, a little game of riskier move. So we'll start with you, Bobrovsky or Radish, riskier move.
I'm gonna say Sergei Bobrovsky is still the riskier move. I was still on the fence of giving Radish that kind of contract, but if it means him being consistent of a 50-point defender, he's not going to hit 70. I think that's realistic. I just want to see what Sergei Bobrovsky can do in front of this defense, because it's not the Florida Panthers defense. I know that the team was riddled with injuries last year, and he didn't have the best production numbers, you name it. But if they were healthy, I'm pretty sure he would have had solid numbers. So I'm curious to see how it's going to play out this year. He is older. I think with the new development of sports science that they added in, Crosby's old trainer, that his age doesn't reflect his body. And that's kind of a good thing with a goalie because of the wear and tear or whatever. So I'm curious to see how that's going to play out, but I still have some risk because of his age, because of the longevity of the past few seasons that he's played in. Is it going to catch up to him? So to me, I think Sergei Bobrovsky is a riskier move because you at least still have a, not necessarily B game for Darren Radish, but if he's not going to be that 70-point D man, he can still put up points on the power play, but still be a 50, 55-point guy.
Had you asked me a month and a half ago, I would have said Darren Radish because of the length of the contract and the number that he got. But then Bowen Byram signed, and all of a sudden Darren Radish's contract looks like a steal.
So much better. Yeah.
But I would say what was interesting to me was when they did sign that Andy O'Brien. He mentioned how Bobrovsky is like, the fountain of youth. Like this guy just takes care of his body on a different level, and he's going to be that type of player. That's why he's been able to start 60 games on and off throughout his career. And that intrigues me with Bobrovsky, and it's a shorter term contract. So I'm going to say Bobrovsky, but there's still a part of me that thinks Darren Radish might be the bigger risk, only because of the length of the contract. I think from years 1 to 4, you're going to get some good numbers out of Darren Radish. You finally have a big clapper from the point on the power play. We haven't had that since Brian McCabe, and he's going to add power play numbers from that standpoint. He like one of the biggest criticisms from him from people when they signed him was that he's a power play merchant. Well, that's exactly what the Leafs need, is a power play merchant. Yeah. So it's not really a criticism. It's a guy that's going to go out and do the job and play the role. But in saying that, like the longevity of that contract worries me a little bit. But I'm still going to go Bobrovsky just because he's playing within the division of where he won 2 Stanley Cups. He's an aging goaltender, but he does offer that guardianship of Artur Akhtyamov as well. Mm-hmm. So there's it's going to be interesting from both sides of that argument. Secondly, Roslovic or Sissons, riskier move.
Uh, it's funny because both. I wanted to say Roslovic because of the defensive game, but he's not being brought in to play defense. He's being brought in for that secondary scoring. To me, it's Colton Sissons at this point because you remember how I said at the top of the show, I don't like forking over $3-4 million for like fourth parent or fourth line guys.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, it was when I saw that they signed Colton Sissons, I thought, okay, this is a good move to bring him in. Depth guy, can win faceoffs, penalty kill. He's got speed. He's got good wheels. You want to get a little bit faster in that fourth line role. When I saw the contract, I'm just like, yeesh. Not a big fan of 4.25. I get it's only 2 years. I get the cap is going up. I get there's not much of a major concern about that money-wise. I'm just still always hesitant about that because right now, he had 11 points last year, and even with the Predators, he was hovering around 20, 30, 35 points. If he's going to be in that third line role, he is not going to be probably sniffing 15, 20 points. It would be great if he did. I'm going to say play a safe bet and say 20 points. I'm going to say if he could get 20 points, great. If he doesn't, then that $4.25 million for a fourth liner, or if they're probably thinking of him as a third line guy, great. But as a fourth liner, I'm just very hesitant that that's going to be his role because I do not like that contract, despite it being short term.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna say Sissons as well. I mean, both are in that $4 million range, both for 2 years. So it doesn't completely capsize the future goals of this franchise. But like for me, Roslovic is like, he's kind of like a Walmart version of Phil Kessel, where like he's gonna go and get you, like he's gonna go get you 20 goals, right? But it might be like a hat trick every 5 games and then disappear for 20 games. And he's got so much more potential, I think, like high-end potential, that I just don't think Roslovic has ever reached his ceiling. And so the familiarity with Austin Matthews, for him to come over and be able to potentially play on a line with Austin Matthews, who knows? That is intriguing in itself. And, we saw what he did with Edmonton coming in later to start the season. He's a guy that has that goal scoring potential. So even if you move him to a third line spot, he could still give you that kind of offense. He could be on the second power play. He could be like I said, a 20 goal Walmart Phil Kessel. And I'm okay with that for $4 million. Sissons, like he brings more of a depth. And again, Sissons can add some offense. We've seen like little spurts, but it's again not to the same maybe level or caliber that Roslovic does. And I think that's the difference for me. I think if you'd sign Sissons to like 3.5 or 3, like I'd be a little bit more.
It would have been a little bit more, yeah.
I'd be a little bit more okay with that move, but So we'll see how each of those plays out, but it's gonna be an interesting year to watch. Gary says all the 2-year contracts are built in like a safeguard, easier to move if they don't work out.
That's true. Yeah,
I agree. I also I wrote an article for the Hockey Writers a few days back where I talked about the contract situation, and the Leafs being the only team that doesn't have an expiring contract this year puts them into a spot where they can still make moves, but potentially create a new young core as well, right? The Gavin McKenna, the Easton Cowan. I mean, even if you want to throw Emile Andre in there as well, like a young defenseman that's still under contract. So I think all of that puts the Leafs in a really good spot, and they are 2-year contracts. Dakota Joshua is up in 2 years. Austin Matthews is up in a couple of years, right? Like there's a lot of. You have a 2-year window right now to figure out what you're going to do. And beyond that, you have that openness in 2 seasons to start making moves if that didn't work out. Owen real quick says, where do you think Emile Andre fits in, or does he get sent down right away? Owen, we kind of had this conversation off the top of the show with where Morgan Rielly fits in as well. I think right now, if you were to look at it right now on paper, he's on your third pairing. I think you have to, given that you gave up Joseph Wall.
Definite 6-7 guy.
Yeah. So the difference being if Ben Danford comes out of nowhere and lights up, the training camp and lights up preseason and earns himself a spot, he'd be the guy that knocks Emile off. But otherwise, I think he's your stand-in right now in the third pairing with whoever the Leafs push down to that third pairing. So it'll, I think that's where he sits. Shout out to Beautiful Jay over on TikTok, got us up to 1K likes, so appreciate it for tuning in on the TikTok channel as well. Thank you for that. Otherwise, the last kind of thing I wanted to say, the hockey media market is going to change big over the next little while. Sportsnet, TNT, Amazon, there's a lot of question marks heading into the season right now. We talked about the potential of Ron McLean going back to Sportsnet. Elliot Friedman right now, Kevin Bieksa have not been fully signed. We don't want to speculate about contracts because, at the end of the day, that's their livelihood as well. And albeit we aren't, maybe at the same level as them, we certainly, consider ourselves journalists and the way that we cover the game as well. And to kind of report on somebody else's contract right now that has not happened. I'm not going to be there for it, but it's going to be interesting to see where Elliot Friedman ends up. He is after all
He's
insider.
The hockey voice right now.
He is the insider. And it's going to be this whole, obviously he'll find his footing wherever he lands, but it's going to be interesting to see how the landscape of the hockey media market transforms over the next month before the season starts. Gary says Cowan, McKenna, Nyes, Danford, AA seem to be the future if it doesn't work out with Matthews. Like I said, there's a new core that's going to be built there, right? Like, regardless if Matthews stays, and I hope he does, or if he moves on. But there's a light in the prospect cupboard for the Maple Leafs. So that's exciting as well. Peter, anything else you wanted to kind of add in before we shut it down?
Just not putting finishing touches, but I would say about 75% of my 2010-27 NHL draft rankings right now. So that's going to be coming out possibly in September, right around when seasons are kicking up right now. And got a lot to work in terms of like watching Helenka Gretzky, watching last year. Hopefully some of the season's already kicking up right now for other players and stuff like that, training camps, preseason games. So hopefully can make a little bit more of, little moves here and there in terms of rankings, but it's early on. It's all for fun. And I'm really excited for what 2027 has to bring because it's the Landon DuPont draft right now.
That's correct. We're going to both have rankings hopefully coming out shortly. It's Gary says Friedman is still with Sportsnet, just doesn't have one for Saturday Night Hockey. I've read elsewhere.
Right, I think they also got rid of Hockey Night in Canada, right? So
they did, yes. But I did read elsewhere that there is potential for him to look for a move elsewhere to stay on Saturday Night Hockey. It's good to be back. We didn't have an official end to season. I guess season 5 of the Sticks and the Six podcast, nor have we planned that yet. We've seen extreme growth over the last year. Guys like Gary watching the show, the TikTok channel taking off, and overall the subscribers continue to climb on the YouTube channel as well. So to all of you guys who tune in weekly, we appreciate you. The Hockey Podcast Network, who's given us a home to do exactly what we love to do. And be able to take a month off and still come back with strong viewership. Shout out to you guys as well. And then of course, the constant sponsorships from DraftKings, SeatGeek, and BioSteel as well. It allows us to do what we want to do. but it also allows us to give back. And as we mentioned last season, we did donate. We did our donation, our Austin Matthews goals donation to the Princess Margaret Hospital. I'll tweet that out a little bit later as well for those who follow us on X. And this year we're gonna be doing a donation again. We're gonna look at some possible spots to donate, and we'll figure out what our kind of our measuring stick is going to be for that as well. But it's something small that we can give back on a yearly basis as well. It might not seem like much, but to me, the way I look at it is every dollar counts, and if we can give back even a handful of change to try and get some things figured out for those around us, loved ones, their loved ones, whatever. Obviously we like to do that as well. Beautiful Jay on TikTok, healthcare worker over here. Thanks, guys. So, and that's the kind of change that we want to create. So, when we figure that out, we will announce it. We are looking forward to a new season of the Sticks and the Six podcast. We're up to 271 in terms of subscribers on YouTube. I want to get to 500 this season. I think we can do 300 before the season starts, and I think it's going to be a big year for us in terms of the Sticks and the Six podcast, with guests, with growing, and continue to push the belt on what we have here, Peter. So to all you guys out there, we appreciate you. If you haven't already, make sure you check out the discount codes below for BioSteel and SeatGeek. $20 off your first purchase over at SeatGeek, and 20% off all BioSteel products online when you use our code. Otherwise, we'll be back next week with some more hockey talk as we head into our first 84-game NHL season. Until next time, guys, make sure you check out this guy here, Alex Hobson. He's got some new songs out, and we love that we can keep him a part of the show with our outro music here, his hit 25.